What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you guys want to support the channel, you can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up and you'll be supporting the channel. Additionally, you can become a patron. You'll get to vote weekly on a Deck Tech for me to cover. Now let's get into today's Deck Tech with Azlask. And guys, this one's a little bit spicy for you. Now we're not going to go the typical tribal route, but we do have a little bit of a tribal sub theme, but we're going to lean heavily into treasure tokens. The reason we're doing this is because Azlask triggers whenever we sacrifice a colorless creature. So I decided, hey, let's generate as many treasure tokens as possible, and then we're going to reanimate them with like a Cyberdrive Awakener, a V-Hand, even like a Rise of Shine, and then sacrifice them, getting 5 experience counters immediately, and then we activate his ability. So now, all of our treasure tokens are creatures, we sack them again, generating the 5 mana we need to activate our commander, and that's going to give us immediately 5 experience counters, which can be extremely powerful, especially when we're running cards like Othari or Marin of Clan Naltoth. Now, the other part of this deck is a deal 1 damage to each opponent every turn sub-theme, because we're on your Grim Hireling effects, Professional Facebreaker effects, and the new one, name escapes me right now, but he's right here. And then we're playing some really cool stuff like Adeline, Nigella. Nigella's kind of just busted in this deck. Maybe we take that one out depending on your playgroup's power level, because with a Grim Hireling effect and Nigella, it does have a tendency to generate infinite combats. So again, if you're not chill with that, definitely take that card out because it's not okay. And then we're on our tribal stuff, like our Myriel Shield of Argive. Magda's really good here because now every time one of our creatures attacks, everything's a dwarf, so we get a treasure token for each dwarf, and then she can tutor up anything in our graveyard, including that maskwood nexus, right? So Magda on the battlefield with 5 treasures really does get this game plan going. We also get to run Voja because Voja's just broken, especially when every creature on the battlefield is an elf and a wolf. You're drawing a ton of cards and buffing your entire board state. This really installs a very good secondary win con in the deck if we're not able to get the reanimating of the treasure tokens going. That's probably the more cooler part of the deck, the fact that we can reanimate treasure tokens and get a ton of experience counters. But again, if that strategy doesn't work out, we always have this backup plan of smashing face with a Voja or a Nigella, right? So if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. The first thing we need to do is generate treasure tokens. Grim Hireling, Professional Facebreaker, and Orochi Soul Reaver are going to be perfect for this. We are going to be on Jolene and Zorn as well. This is going to double up all of our treasure token effects that are one-off, right? Because whenever we deal combat damage with Professional Facebreaker, technically that is 3 separate triggers, so it will double up on the treasures, making 6 instead of 3, so very useful there. Especially with like a Smothering Tithe, generating 2 treasure tokens instead of 1 treasure token off of each card our opponents are drawing is extremely powerful. V-Hand is going to be hands down the best way to turn all of our treasure tokens into creatures, and he has some broken interactions with some of the cards in the deck. For instance, when we have Pitiless Plunderer or Mahadi Emporium Master on the battlefield, we're essentially going to replace every single treasure token we sack, right? Because now they're creatures, and both of these trigger off of how many creatures die. Mahadi is the worst option we have here since we do have to wait till our instep, but it's still going to be a broken interaction with Vihan. Lotho is just going to be a solid creature that generates treasure tokens. Academy Manufacturer is going to be perfect here because now we're generating clue and food tokens along with our treasure token, so we're getting some of that card advantage. We're also going to play the Titanic, just generating 7 treasure tokens out of nowhere is extremely powerful. Ancient Copper Dragon and Old Gnawbone are also going to be in the deck. They generate a massive amount of treasure tokens. Another reason maybe Nigella is not okay in this deck. Reckless Endeavor can be extremely powerful. It can be a solid board wipe and generate some treasure tokens. Smothering Tithe, we're obviously going to be on this, and we're obviously going to be on Black Market Connections as well. It makes us changelings, it's going to draw us cards, and it generates treasure tokens. Jan Jansen, another solid way we can consistently generate treasure tokens every single turn, not to mention he does make those colorless constructs that will net us experience counters with our commander as well. Dahada also going to be amazing here. I don't know if you can tell, but we have a little bit of a legendary sub-theme going, so she generates a ton of treasure tokens and can find us our key pieces. Corvold Fey Cursed King is just a way to draw some insane cards in this deck. Having a 5-color Corvold is just not okay, especially when we throw Kinnan Bonder Prodigy in the deck. If you don't know, Kinnan has an interesting interaction with treasure tokens. Since we are technically tapping it to add the mana, it is going to trigger Kinnan and add an additional mana. So now we're doubling up on all of our treasure tokens, kind of. And then we're on Rise and Shine and Cyberdrive Awakener. Not as good as V-Hand, but we will take them in this weird strategy that we've got going on. Moving on, I want to talk about some of the tribal synergies we have going on. First of all, we need to make all of our creatures scions. So Arcane Adaptation, Maskwood Nexus, and Mirror Entity are going to be an amazing way to do this. Notably, Arcane Adaptation is super flexible. Whatever payoff we have on the battlefield, we can just turn all of our creatures into that payoff, right? If we have Nigella, we can make them warriors. If we have Myrel, we can make them soldiers. Again, it's just a very flexible card in the deck. Notably, Myrel Shield of Argive does make colorless 1/1 soldier creature tokens, so whenever our opponents block those and they die, they will trigger our commander as well. Nigella, again, very good. We just have a lot of warriors, and now those warriors are going to be able to trigger our commander whenever we make them all creature types. Notably, again, she does go infinite with a plethora of the cards in the deck, so she might be worth a cut depending on how powerful your playgroup plays at, but just something to watch, especially when we do have Magda in the deck as well. When everything's a dwarf and we attack with 5 creatures, that nets us 5 treasure tokens, and again, that will just go infinite with Nigella. Another thing this is very good at is it's very good at searching up our Maskwood Nexus, and then after we have Maskwood Nexus on the battlefield, it can search up literally any creature card in our deck, which is going to be very useful to assemble our V-Hand combo. Voja's just kind of messed up, and it's kind of our plan B Craterhoof Behemoth in the deck. If we do have Mirror Entity and Maskwood Nexus on the battlefield paired with this strategy to go super wide, it can result in us just drawing 10 cards and buffing our board state up by 10 every single turn, so that will end out the game fairly quickly as well. Moving on to the core of the deck, we are running Marin here. Notably, Marin does trigger the same way our commander does, kind of, right? If we turn a treasure token into a creature and then sacrifice it, that's going to net us an experience counter for Marin as well. So if Marin and our commander are on the battlefield and we sacrifice 5 animated treasure tokens, that's going to net us 10 experience counters and buff our entire board state +10/+10. That's going to be very easy to end out the game with. We're also on Athari Sun's Glory. This is another way that can really end the game, especially if we do net a decent amount of treasure tokens with our commander. Notably, Athari does kind of pair perfectly with the other strategy of the deck that just goes super wide and tries to deal 1 damage to every opponent every single turn. Adeline Resplendent Cathar. Again, this goes with the strategy of trying to deal at least 1 damage to every opponent. That way we're able to trigger our Grim Hireling effects pretty consistently. Chatterfang is also going to be amazing in this list. Now every time we generate a treasure token, or any token for that matter, we're also generating a massive army of squirrels. This does go infinite with a Pitiless Plunderer, but not in a meaningful way. It's just infinite die triggers. Now we do need a payoff to generate an infinite amount of mana using this way. Maybe a Jolene or Exorn, that way every time a squirrel dies and we generate a treasure token, we get an additional treasure token. So again, it's pretty powerful in the deck, and does have some options to just generate some insane infinite value. Xyrus is going to be pretty solid here. It's going to be very easy to generate a lot of snake tokens, and it has a pretty funny interaction with Marnius Calgar that is also in the deck. Every time an opponent draws a card and we generate a snake token, we also draw a card. So it's kind of a poor man's Consecrated Sphinx that's way worse and takes 2 5 CMC creatures, but I think it's kind of funny. Additionally, Marnius Calgar does trigger each time we generate a treasure token, and remember, our Grim Hireling, our Professional Facebreaker effects do trigger 3 additional times, 1 for each opponent hit. So that will net us 3 cards a turn every time we're able to deal damage to each opponent. Pretty useful there, especially when you add in Zorn, which is its own trigger, and then Chatterfang, which is its own trigger. There's just going to be a lot of cards to draw off of this guy, especially when we have Smothering Tithe in the deck, right? We don't really have to justify him that much. Inga and a Sika. I just wanted another way to kind of mana fix everything, and it gives all of our creatures vigilance so we can still attack and then tap them after combat. Again, surprise surprise, this does go infinite with Nigella as long as we have 5 creatures to tap. Kind of messed up, since Nigella does give the warrior tokens haste whenever she creates them. They're able to tap for mana that same exact turn, so yeah, this is also just kind of broken with her. And then we're playing Sisay. I did show some restraint here. We're not playing the 5-color Sisay, we're playing the Selesnya Sisay, which is a little more fair, but this is going to tutor up any legendary creature we need out of our deck. It can get our V-Hand, it can get our Magda, whatever legend we need at any point in the game, Sisay is going to be able to find it. Edric Spymaster, Toski Bearer of Secrets, Orin Frostfang, all very good cards that synergize with our Grim Hireling strategy, right? Again, half of this deck wants to deal a combat damage to each player every single turn, so whenever we're doing that, we're triggering all of our card draw pieces as well. Just going to be a perfect value engine there. Azuri is going to be perfect here. We have a lot of very low to the ground creatures entering the battlefield, and it's just another solid way to generate experience counters while making our board hard to block. He has a very broken interaction with Othari, right? Because Othari attacks, we get more experience counters. The rebels enter the battlefield, giving us more experience counters from Azuri. So it kind of creates a scenario where they have to wipe our board very fast, or we just win the game. It kind of works the same with, again, Nigella and your Adeline effects. This is just going to be a solid way to generate an insane amount of experience counters in the deck. Then we're on Champion of Liamhold. Now we can just prevent our opponents from blocking our creatures because Champion's going to get absolutely massive in this deck. With that being said, that's going to end the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. I know it's just another tribal and that's been done to death, but I kind of think the spin with the treasure tokens is interesting enough to share it with you guys. I would like to shout out my high contributing patrons, Newsome, Excessum, Chicken Salad, and Praetor. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I'll see you guys in the next one.